Hey guys, I just got back from a weekend down in sunny St. George, Utah, where I rode the brand new third generation Pivot Trail 429. Man, it can hang with the tall boy on the descents. It climbs as well or maybe better than the Ibis Ripley. Come along with me on this test ride today and we'll see what this thing is all about.
You good? Kevin just went over a rock, and the rocks down here feel like you're breaking a pot. Oh, jeez. That's one way to get down it, Kev. Yes! Man, I rarely ever get that climb. That feels amazing.
So one of the first things you notice when you see the brand new Trail 429 is it's got a completely different frame than the previous generation, right? So it no longer has that shock mount right here. They've got it down lower, just like the new Switchblade has. Paint jobs are beautiful. It comes in this silver color or that kind of grayish blue color. Both are really good looking in person. And before we go into all the details about this bike, I just want to tell you real quick who today's sponsor is. It's Carbo Rocket Nutrition. I've been using Carbo Rocket for, almost a decade now. It's a nutritional supplement that I use when I'm training for races or just out on long days, especially when it's a long ride or if it's super hot outside. You add this Carbo Rocket right into your bottles. You can get up to over 300 calories in your bottle, and it makes the perfect race day supplement. For me, like on a long 4-hour race, it's really hard for me to want to put food in my mouth and keep myself moving forward. So to put a ton of calories in my water bottle and drink it makes life way easier, especially when you're taxed from a long, hard race. To learn more about Carbo Rocket, click the link in the description down below. Use promotional code yumyum at checkout for 25% off. I've been using this stuff for years. It's the only thing that gets me through really long races or even just long rides. All right, the new third generation Trail 429. Where do I begin? So much good stuff to talk about. 130 millimeter Fox 34 fork, 120 mils out back with a Fox DPS shock. You got a 75-degree seat tube angle and a 66-degree head tube angle. There's a flip switch where you can kind of change the position, so you can go slightly steeper at 66.5-degree head tube angle and 75.5-degree seat tube angle. I spent all of my time in the lowest position, which is the slightly slacker, more like trail position, right? I thought the bike was incredible. We're gonna talk about how it descended today, how it climbed today, and toward the end of the video, we're going to talk about who this bike is for and how it compares to the other bikes out there, namely the Ibis Ripley, which has been the bike that I've been riding for the last year and a half. Let's just get straight to climbing. I mean, I don't think there's a bike in this category, which is the short travel 29er trail bike category. In my opinion, the hottest category of bikes available right now. They're just so good.
Trail 429 is like, oh man, it might be the best in class. I'll spend more time on it, but like it feels so good. Woohoo! Dude, that is so fun. It never gets old.
That's such a slamming compression.
Oh, the compression at the end, totally. Okay, I want to see if I can make it up this hard section of climb right here. I make it up like less than half the time. Let's give Kevin just a little bit of room. Gotta power it right there, Kev. Give it the beans, buddy. Go, go, go. Yeah. Oh, come on. Aha! Dang it.
I don't think there's a bike that climbs better than this. I used to own the Pivot Switchblade, which is this guy's big brother, right? And that bike in technical terrain climbs so well. It's insane how well it climbs. One of the things that makes this bike climb so well is that rear suspension. It's a DW Link suspension style that these pivots use. And in any technical terrain, whenever there's an option to just bump into like a square edge or a ledge of 6 inches or a foot, it just bears down, finds traction, and gets right up that thing. Sometimes when you're going on a climb that requires a ton of power, and it's just this little burst of energy to get up this technical section, sometimes you'll hit the obstacle and you kind of get bucked forward out of your saddle almost, right? And that's not good, because the more seated climbing you can do in the saddle, the better traction you're gonna have, because you got your weight back there. This bike allows you to stay seated, just bear down and climb up those technical sections. I rode a trail called Zen down in St. George the weekend that I had this bike, and there are some really technical, hard grunt type climbs that are just really hard to get up. And I cleaned every single climb on this bike, which I don't normally do. It's just really hard climbing. In terms of technical terrain, best climbing bike I've ever ridden, which breaks my heart, because for the last year and a half I've been riding the Ibis Ripley, and that bike climbs really well, but I think this maybe outguns it in the technical terrain. As far as like pedaling efficiency goes, just motoring along trails, not overly technical terrain, this feels incredibly efficient. It just feels like there's a little mini electric motor in there just pushing you up the trail. Descending. I mean, I hate to give a bike this much praise, but it's so worthy of it. Yes. I mean, for a couple parts of this trail, I feel like we've just been charging it. Okay, left up here. Yeah, charging. You can charge enough on this bike.
Oh, even that was,
dude,
that was legit.
We're charging.
Yeah.
That's what I was just saying.
I was sitting back and I was like, dude, he's flying behind me because I'm going full out.
This descends as well as the Santa Cruz Tallboy, which in my opinion, for short travel trail bikes, that thing feels bottomless. And maybe this doesn't have quite as much as that bottomless feel as the Santa Cruz, but in terms of being composed and stable for a shorter travel bike, it's amazing. There's a section down Zen where you're absolutely just hauling the mail, and my buddy Kevin on his Yeti SB 150 was smashing, just totally throttling it right all the way through this really technical section of trail, and I was just right there the whole time, just charging. It was amazing. In fact, we got to the bottom and I just stopped and I was like, dude, I was charging as hard on this bike as I do any bike. It was incredible. Now, if I was on the Switchblade, I probably would have been a little bit more smooth, a little bit more stable, but I mean, in terms of like blending good climbing, lightweight, and good descending, I mean, the industry right now, these modern bikes are just kind of funneling down into this category, which is a short travel trail bike. The geometry on these bikes is so good, and they've slackened out that front end to that 66-degree head tube angle. It's like a magic number in my opinion, that 66-degree head tube angle. It's good enough that you don't feel it's too slack for climbing, but descending, it stays really composed. The bike feels long. And maybe we talk about that for a second. This bike is pretty easy to ride. The seat tube angle is not so steep that when you have the post up high and you're climbing, it's not totally like you're over the bars and there's not a lot of place to operate when the saddle's all the way high. It's just an easy bike to move around on, create that bike body separation, and I never felt like I was getting in the bike was getting in my way when I was riding, like maybe some more modern geometry bikes do a little bit. In the corners, it just laid over and got out of my way. I mean, I rode a size medium bike and it felt good. It felt long. I think it has like a 455 or 460 millimeter reach. I have a link in the description below this video to where you can go and click on it and get all the geometry numbers, the different build kits that Pivot offers on this bike. I picked up the bike from Salt Cycles in Sandy, Utah. They're our local Pivot dealer. I think they still have these in stock. The bike came out like a week or two ago. And anyway, give Chris a call. He's easy to work with. If there's a certain build that Pivot offers that you just are not jiving with. Maybe you like the XTR Pro build, but you want to get different handlebars or different grips or different saddle, change up the drivetrain in some way. He can customize the bike for you super easy. They're great to work with. So thanks to Salt Cycles for getting the bike for me, first of all. And I had such a good time. I rode it for 3 days down in St. George. I just got one more ride on it today real quick up here in Salt Lake City, Utah. We have snow in the mountains, but these lower trails are starting to dry out a little bit more now. And you're gonna start to see more weekly videos from me too, doing bike reviews. If you're new to the channel, that's what I do. I try to get as many different bikes as I can, review them, and share my test ride and my experience with you guys, especially for you who don't have access to demo bikes. So let's see here, where are we at? We've talked about climbing, we've talked a little bit about descending. Who's this bike for? I mean, this is certainly, in my opinion, more on the trail bike side of things than it is the cross-country bike thing. You know, when I think about cross-country bikes, it can sometimes be a little harsh, a little rough on you. This does not have that problem at all, but it still climbs incredibly efficiently. Like as efficient as any like cross-country bike I've ridden. The weight came in pretty light, you know, just over 27 pounds on this build, which is totally acceptable for a good trail bike with good tires. You know, it's got the dissector front and rear, great tire, good traction, good protection. You could drop some weight if you want to be on the more cross-country side by swapping out those tires to something like a Recon and an Ardent Race or something. But I like the package exactly how it was. Thinking about who it's for though, I mean, I think it's a guy who really rides often. You know, there's guys who ride, you know, once a week or just on the weekends or something. If you're like me and you're riding 4, 5, 6 days a week, sometimes the Switchblade, this guy's big brother, can feel a little taxing on you. It's a bigger bike to move around. It's a little bit slower in the corners than this bike. And I think someone who rides often and wants a snappier bike than an enduro bike, but still needs a bike that can kind of hang with those longer travel trail bikes, right? This one can certainly do that type of work. The bike felt maneuverable. It felt fast. I was super impressed with this bike. Thanks for sticking around and watching this video. I guess this is the part where we talk about how it compares to the other bikes in the category. This is always tough because there's no one perfect bike, I don't think, and you have a different understanding of what you guys need out of a bike than I do. For me, this climbs as good as any bike in the category on just normal pedaling around, but then when you get into the technical stuff, it outclimbs my Ripley. So, you know, 1 point Trail 429 right there, I guess. Descending, man, it's been a while since I've ridden the Evil Following. It's been a couple of years since I've ridden that, and I know they've come out with a new one, but right now I would say in the short travel trail category, the Santa Cruz Tallboy is still probably that #1 descender for just feeling bottomless and just absorbing everything. It's just incredible, that bike. And this is right there with it. I wouldn't say that it ekes it out of that spot, but it's right there with it. So in terms of like a Goldilocks do everything bike, man, this is there. I'm going to speak a little bit more about my Ibis Ripley, just because I think a lot of people will be shopping for the Ripley or the Trail 429. And I would say that the Ripley feels slightly more maneuverable, a little easier to get into those corners, a little quicker in those corners too. They have such similar geometry, although I think this is a longer bike. Again, you have to click the link in the description down below to know for sure, and I have to go look at that, but I would imagine this is a slightly longer wheelbase. It wasn't super noticeable, but the other thing is for me, a lighter weight rider at 140 pounds, Ibis offers that rear shock in a light traction tune, and it feels just slightly more supple and more usable for me. And so the Ripley feels a little softer sometimes, which I really like. But then that Ripley also has a lot of pop and character to it. This was still a very playful and poppy bike. I know everyone hates the word poppy, but I don't know how else to say it. It's a very sporty bike. I would say the nod maybe goes to the Ripley for being slightly more sporty or poppy or playful, but this still has a ton of character with that regard as well. Honestly, I think between the Ripley and the Trail 429, I could flip a coin, and whatever one it fell on, Trail 429 or Ripley, that's probably the one I would go with. The Santa Cruz Tallboy for me just doesn't climb quite well enough. And it's also a really heavy bike. I don't understand why people want to have a 120 millimeter travel bike that weighs over 30 pounds. I just think for me, it would be down to the Trail 429 or the Ripley. Flip a coin, and that's the one. I think for me, I need to get some more time on that. I've got more time to ride this now that my trails are dried out. So I'm gonna get a couple more rides. I sold my Ibis Ripley, so I'm looking for a bike, and this could very well be it. I might end up getting another Ibis Ripley, but it's such a good time to be a mountain biker. This geometry, that's the last thing I'm gonna say real quick about Pivot. When I saw the geometry numbers when this bike was released, I was so relieved to see the 66.5 degree head tube angle and the 75.5 degree seat tube angle, because I just feel like bikes are really getting just, more like this, like slacker in the head tube angle and steeper in the seat tube angle. We're gonna be riding bikes like this from now on. And I don't know, I think this geometry is about perfect. And it's about the same as the Ibis Ripley that I've been riding for the last year and a half. I mean, this feels really good to me. I don't need a steeper seat tube angle, that's for sure. This feels perfect. I hope this video was helpful. I had such a good time riding this. We are gonna do a live stream 2 days after this video is published on my YouTube channel. So if you're watching this video right now, in 2 days, we're gonna have a live stream where you can come hang out here on YouTube on my channel for about an hour. And I'm gonna answer any of the questions or address those comments that you guys put in the comment section down below this video. So go in there and share your experience if you have time on this bike, or if you used to own the previous bike. That'll be a place for us to talk more about how this bike compares to the second generation Trail 429. We'll get more into the weeds on how it compares to the Ripley, the Santa Cruz Tallboy, and other bikes in this category, the Giant Trance. I mean, the list is long, and I don't have enough time right here to talk about it, so that live stream will be pretty useful. And it's just fun to hang out, and it's a great community of mountain bikers we have here on YouTube, so it'll be fun to see everyone and catch up a little bit. So subscribe and hit the like button. That helps promote this video. And man, what a good time to be a mountain biker. There's just so many good options.